Hello, this is Brian Whitten and welcome to ET Art's Decoding the Pyramid. And albeit may seem odd to start a video about decoding the pyramid with these two images on, I can assure you that what we are going to learn by the end of this video will be the true purpose of the entire Pyramid Complex in Cairo. Before we get to the end of this video, we are going to know without doubt, number one, who built the pyramids, why they were built, number two, and that we're actually going to get to a point where you are probably going to think, what an amazing discovery. I'm going to put at the start here that what I'm going to tell you is 100% true. As far as the discovery goes, there is no discovery here. This is hidden, very, very hidden. I put this image to the right side here. We all know who drew this image. It's Leonardo da Vinci, in one of his many diagrams. I have got this on the screen for a very, very pertinent reason. I want you to look at where his arms are pointing. I've got the globe at the same size as the circle that he drew around man. Okay. The fact he draws a circle around man here is very, very pertinent. The pyramid and everything we're going to learn today is very, 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 well, how can I say, it's confronting, okay? But we are going to learn that we have very, very, very important things being withheld from us by our leaders. And in essence, that's what has happened. I would draw your attention first of all to this hand that he's pointing to. Excuse this, is a new pointer. Came from my old text. This hand is pointing to the South American comet impact here. Okay, we've already assessed in other videos that this is the first one. The other one is at the bottom of South America, which is where his foot is pointing to. I will rotate the globe. This is now his top hand. He's pointing to the Mediterranean comet impact. He has one foot, and if I rotate this globe, his penis, excuse me, ends up at the Northern Australian impact. I guess that means you've got to have balls to live in Australia. Who knows? Listen, what we're seeing here is knowledge displayed by, without doubt, about the comet impacts. Okay, then this knowledge is known by the man that drew this picture. That is pretty indisputable that he knew, this man that drew this picture knew of the impact in the Southern Ocean, the Central American impact, and the impact that created the Mediterranean. We'll go on. Now I have a cross section of the pyramid up against the globe using this, this line here, indicative or indicating the very sign of line of longitude here, which is in actual fact the one that the Central American comet impact here corresponds with this one. The Southern impact corresponds with this one. And that what this pyramid and cross section does here is tell us exactly how the Earth moved when these comets hit it. I won't dawdle too long here. I did say watch 9 from 9. If you watch 9 from 9, I would expect it be very, very clear exactly what it was that was gotten rid of. Now, when I said that I trust the people that we brought these comets to our planet, I can tell you now that we're still here. So, you know, and so are the animals. The devastation caused by these comets, I would expect, killed everybody on the planet. I said that, and I doubt that there would be anybody living. Which brings another big question into How is everything still here? Like I said, in my last video, I gave you a lot of inserted images towards the end of that video. They were deliberately installed not so well. So in other words, the pictures were not as of good a quality as I could have put in there. However, there was one that was very, very, very clear. Did you notice it? I don't mind being a little bit cryptic myself at times. Did you notice the real clear image in the last video? Okay, because you probably need to go back to it. That's in the carry-on video. And I'm not going to tell you where it is, but there is one image inserted at the end that is extremely clear. You can do a freeze frame. You can download that image, stop the video in the middle, do a screen capture, and go and have a real close look at it, because you might, in that video, or at least in that image, you will have the answer to the questions of where did we all go, the ones that were still here, and the animals, and how did the rocks in all the rivers get modified. There's an image there that will give you a very good indication as to what the case is. But we won't dawdle any longer. We will move on now to the cross section of the pyramid. Okay, we now have cross section of the pyramid in full view. I will start by saying, as I said, that this entrance and the upper shaft here, or northern shaft, are indicative, or at least indicating, the point on the line of longitude that the comet's hit on, 32 degrees, and this one just above the equator in Central America. We are seeing here, by the deflection here of this comet here, that it bounced off the Earth's surface. From the point that it bounced off, the grand chamber here, or grand gallery I should say, and the way it's built is indicating that the comet that bounced off the Central American, the South American impact, divided into 4 comets. I will, for the sake of the practice, just install right now a microscopic view from a rock, albeit that's not particularly, it really doesn't prove anything. I will also now install not just the microscopic version that says 4, but the inserted Australian image that has 4 comet impacts above Australia. So in other words, it's the comet that bounces off the southern impact at South America, that it comes across, breaks into 4 and separates the Australian continent from Asia. Okay, that is why we see the grand gallery go into more of a height here, and you'll probably find there's 4 sets of big boulders make up the walls inside there, and as silly as it may sound, that's exactly what happens. When this comet hits our planet, it is at low to the mass of the planet. It tilts the globe immediately. This comet hits at the same time. It is the difference in mass of the comets. This is where you've got to really understand how very, very smart the deliverers of the comet were, because they are extremely intelligent. They have calculated the mass of both these. Might be why they chopped the 3rd bit off and put it in Western Australia. Listen, you'll see 1, 2, 3 is exactly the case. This comet was 1. It then became 2, it then became 3. They were warnings to the people, the king and queen of the world, or what was the old New World Order. It's the old New World Order will be dealt with by the same as the New World Order. I can assure you that. It will be dealt with in exactly the same way. I'm teaching you what I'm teaching you now with no doubt whatsoever, is that I have information put into me. I didn't get it out of any moronic lodge, that's for sure. I got mine for a little bit of hard work, ingenuity, and some common sense. Anyway, we go on. This indicates here that it is this upper or North or Central American comet impact but in actual fact it actually is this that stops the tilt of the globe beyond 10 degrees initially. Okay, I will show you in the Serapeum where that is, where we work that out. Okay, the position of the King's Chamber, where it is, I would suggest that the very mass of the pyramid itself be right there, the very point of the Queen's Chamber. The position of the King's Chamber and the very point of the King's Chamber is showing you where the mass of the planet Earth got moved and where it went to. It went from here to here. You see the extra height here? You will find that there's 11 lines drawn across here by the placement of the rocks and structures above the King's Chamber. There are 11 lines there because, as depicted in the Serapeum, which we will get to later, there is 11,000 years for the planet to return to its state it was in prior to the impact, which was standing up straight with 0 degrees axis. With us in Australia here, right where I live, we would have had spring 12 months of the year, which is what was happening. We'll also note that the King's Chamber, being lifted up and shifted over, has moved these lines. These two shafts were blocked. You're trying to work out why they're blocked. They're blocked because of the length. Because when that comes back down to there, that length there is the same as that. That length there is the same as that. Which is exactly why those shafts are unfinished or blocked as such. It is the length relative there and the length relative there to the length of that shaft and the length of that shaft. When, like I said, the deflection here, or the second comet, which is indicated at hitting the same time, right? You must understand that when I get to the Serapeum, we will not only go through the comet sequence, which is written into the Serapeum, but it also shows in greater detail the entire process of movement of the planet. It initially was moved by 10 degrees, and I will show you where that's done in right now, okay? Now I've just moved on to another image. Like I said, don't worry about these red lines here. That was me just messing around and I couldn't be bothered taking them off the image I had. The lines I do want you to look at though is the lines from the top of the Queen's Chamber, like I said, which indicate the mass of the planet. It tells you here how the mass of the planet was moved in respect to the line of longitude. So in other words, the tilt put on the globe in the initial impact. Okay, that's why this shaft goes down here as well. Right, because it just lets you know that it's this comet here that is responsible for this shift in our axis. That's why it's coming down here. The 10 degrees of initial tilt is the first comet impact. And when I say the first comet impact, I mean both. Right, these happen at the same time. There is no discrepancy. This is where you really need to, if you're a planetary scientist or a physicist or whatever, you can do some maths here, boys, because I'm telling you now, these boys here know exactly the mass of the comet that hits here and exactly the mass of the comet that hits there, and they know exactly the speed they need to hit at to tilt our globe to what they want it to be. Okay? And they didn't do that to tilt this to 10 degrees. They did it to tilt it at 24 degrees over a period of 600 years. Okay, because if you don't think they knew that, it would be very, very incorrect. They did it to do exactly that. The tilt of 10 degrees is taken up by the comet sequence. The Australian comet sequence and the whole comet sequence is over, and we are in 10 degrees of tilt. We go from 10 degrees out to 24 degrees, which is this light blue line, which is our current, well, where we were up until recently. We are now past the 12,000 years we were going to spend out at 24 degrees here. We took about 600 years to get from this point here to here, and I will explain that a little bit better when we go into the Serapeum. Albeit what I've just told you might seem somewhat obscure, it is in actual fact correct, okay, it's 100% correct. When we go to look at the Serapeum in a little bit more detail, you'll begin to understand, certainly by the time we get up on the foreground and above on the causeway and I start explaining to you the eastern and western Mastaba fields, you will also be in no doubt that what I'm telling you is 100% correct. I will move on. Now we have a detailed image, albeit it's a little bit different than some others I've seen. The others do have watermarks. I'll stick with one without a watermark. There are a couple of boxes that are not on this one that I have seen on another one. There's one at an angle just here. There is also another one placed right here in this hall. Probably best to explain this now is that I have already showed you the initial tilt of the planet. As I said, this line here is representing the initial tilt of the planet of 10 degrees. You may be at this point a little bit maybe not convinced of that. Trust me, by the time we get to the eastern and western Mastaba fields and the manner in which they track the rising and setting sun, you will be in no doubt. I will go here to tell you what these are first. It's probably the easiest way. I've come to the belief, mostly because of the Sumerian teachings that say the period of precession is 22 to 23,000 years or something, that I am indicating that each one of these black boxes, in each one of these places where it cannot be moved, is saying that I am staying for 1,000 years in a stationary rotation of 24 degrees, which is why they're all out here at this end, out here, okay, because when we draw a 24 degrees line to the top of the Queen's chamber, the 24 degrees is here. This is the 10 degrees of initial incline of the axis caused by the impact, the rotational speed of the planet being rotated quicker, the momentum of the planet, the mass of the planet, and the entire catastrophe cause the planet to go out and travel to that period of time. You will note that there is a black box here in that hallway, and there is also one that's not marked here and another one that's right here. What that means is you have 1,000 years between here and here, or you have 1,000 years between here and here, okay? If we're going to work then that this is at ratio, so in other words this is 10 degrees and this is 24 degrees, well then at a ratio, if that is 1,000 years, well then one would assume that this is probably at ratio, and we're looking at around about 600 years for the axis to remove, or at least move from there out to here. Now I would like, if I could, to explain the comet sequence and the manner in which it's displayed here and how they hit the planet. Before I move away just to that bit, I do want you to note that each one of these boxes is like this. What we're talking about here is the planet's movement above the equatorial plane. So if the perfect plane with the sun is here, our planet is going up and down like this, beyond this plane all the time, and it takes about 1,000 years for that to go. So if you can understand that that's what that means, that the planet, because of the impact, has bounced the planet up and down like this, so it's going not only at an angle, but it's also bouncing up and down past what is called the perfect, alignment, magnetic alignment with the sun. When we move on to the manner in which the comets hit, these comets created 7 different comet impact sites. There were more than 7 comets in the end. The one in the north, one that hit Central America and then created the Mediterranean, came as one, broke into 2 and created the Mediterranean. The one that hit the Southern Ocean broke into 4 and separated the Australian continent. What we're seeing here is an indication that the 12,000 years is going to set out here. The 11,000 years that it comes back into is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and there's another one in here, 11. 11,000 years. The 11,000 years that you're seeing here doesn't take 11,000 years to do this bit. We're not going to come flying back in here. What we're going to see here is this 11,000 years be left this end of the Serapeum to not be confused with this end of the Serapeum, which is indicating the stationary 24 degrees axis tilt here. These are at this end for us to go somewhere else, and what we do is we do go somewhere else. We go upstairs, or we say upstairs, up on the main foreground for a very, very detailed explanation of the precession of the planet. Okay. Comet impacts. I have made a video where I said these are just pointers. They're not. They're actually telling us this is our first and second comet impact. So this is the one that separates the South American landmass from Antarctica. This is the one that almost separates Central America, I should say South America from North America. These hit at the same time. This is what I'm saying to you. The calculus here is unbelievable. They know exactly how far, how big, how hard. They're very, very, very smart. I'm not kidding. These people make us look like we're still in the cave now. Here is the second or third comet impact, which is the one in the Mediterranean, which is why it's on the top side of here. This one is the one that's showing the bottom, so it's saying this is the southern, this is the northern, this is the northern, and this is the southern impact. The northern impact here now that it says, well, if we actually look at this, it is actually saying they hit at the same time. It's a very quick process here, because the other indication I just showed you is that whether or not we're getting a fair indication of that or not, I don't know. But we're looking at here, like I said, the two first comet impacts, here and here. Okay, so this is the Central American one. This is the South American one. This one is the Mediterranean, where it hits, knocks the planet back down again. And this once again is the Australian impact, which then stops our planet from going any further in that direction. And then it's, like I said, from that point forward, the planet's motion is driven by its mass. And like I said, the people that delivered these comets, they knew without doubt that was going to end up out there, I can tell you that. And they also knew it was going to take about 600 years to do it. One thing I did want you to make note of is the lesser galleries. I have not done a very historical event on this, nor a really, really big analysis. I note that what we're actually looking at here, if I line that up here, we're looking, you know, across here, or certainly lining up here with the start of here. So I'm thinking, when I'm looking at this, when I look here and see that every one of these vacant ones here is relative to a comet impact, once I move over this side, I'm seeing some rather bad news. Okay, I'm not going to go into that too much in this video. I might save it for the book. Certainly this one here, that is another comet impact. The pyramid itself would appear to have some predictions built into it, and I would be certainly not going to be here when I'm here. This is that comet impact there is the next, I believe, the next passing of Nibiru, which is also indicated, as is the last two passes of Nibiru in the Pyramid Complex up on the forecourt. Like I said, I might cover those lesser galleries if I get an opportunity between now and when I'm writing the book, just to go a little bit, you know, more into it. I guess the one thing I wanted to make to your notice is that we're getting a very, very regular here, up and down, up and down, up and down, where we're spending 1,000 years both up and down below what is called, you know, your perfect ecliptic with the sun, if that's what you want to call it. Down here we see the same thing, but in actual fact it doesn't do this upstairs. This does not happen like this upstairs. When you go upstairs, we don't spend a lot of time doing this here. Okay, we only spend about 1,500 years. I think that's why that's like that, because when you go upstairs it's different. When I say upstairs I mean the forecourt. The forecourt does not show that, and I think that's why it's actually there like that. It actually brings your attention to it because you actually notice the difference between one and the other. And if in actual fact these are blank indicating comet impact, this might be historical here. Here we could, you know, be looking at the size of comets. They're all empty. This one here's got 4 and 3 here, where this one here, this is a concerning thing. This may be a historical event. What we're seeing here is going to happen right here. That's what I think we're going to do. I'll look at that further down the track, but we'll leave that for this moment and we'll go back up to the view of the eastern and western Mastaba fields, and I'll show you how they work. Okay, now we have an image up. I have drawn some lines on here that have the eastern and western Mastaba fields that surround the Pyramid Cheops here. What I would like you to make note of is that we already established from the cross section that the initial tilt of the globe was 10 degrees. Okay, these fields, this one here and this one here, are in actual fact using the setting sun from and rising sun from the pyramid to record the movement of the planet here. That's actually what you're seeing happen. You are seeing the initial 10 degrees here being between the blue and red line, okay? And what you're seeing is the movement, in this case on the eastern Mastaba fields, the setting sun, and using the side of this pyramid to set these here. What you're doing whilst you move these out is just letting you know how long you were at any given angle. So if I was to move that blue line down this way, with the increase as the Earth moved from 10 degrees to 24 degrees, like I said, it took 600 years, and this is telling you how long it took to go from 1 degree to another, to another, to another, until you got to the 24 degrees, which is right there, okay, and that is the maximum deviation at its widest point. And once again, with the red line, once again the same. It moved up here and got to there at its maximum point in line with the causeway, and that is, in actual fact, the maximum deviation at 24 degrees that got recorded there. Okay, so that's how that works. This is just letting you know how long it was, and like I said 600 years. That's because I've got 6 boxes here. That's the other reason why I think it's 600 years to get out to there. That could be wrong. I'm not a planetary scientist. You go work all that out if you wished. But that is without doubt what these are doing. And once again, don't worry about that part of that structure there is not. None of this is here. Everything forward of this box and that blue and red line is tracking the rising sun and using the point of the pyramid to do it. And you're seeing that red line go out here, and it will show you exactly the maximum deviation from the rising sun. Okay, because this is doing the rising sun, this is doing the setting sun. You'll also note that I've got 6 boxes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I've actually got over here 12 rows. I think you'll find this is a lot more accurate. It's not so accurate, but that is why you've got 12 rows here. The only part I haven't really covered is from about that part there to here. I'm thinking, I'm not really worrying too much about it, to be honest. I think the most important critical parts of the pyramid I've actually covered. So that's what this is doing, and that's how it works. Don't worry about that. Like I said, this is from this point forward to about that box there, okay, because that's about, I said I haven't really worked that out. I would suspect that this in actual fact has probably got more to do with tracking what was a globe with a precession beginning and the Sphinx going out this way here. At Leo, at the time this happened, the Sphinx, which was built at the same time all of the rest of this was, by the way, all built at exactly the same time. If you think they had to wait for 600 years to know they were going to get it 24 degrees to build it into the bottom of this pyramid, that would be a pretty stupid assessment. I can tell you now, these people know what's going to happen to our planet, and that a comet's going to hit it right here on that part of Nibiru. I'll go back to that in a minute. Well, probably a little bit longer than a minute. But that is how accurate this is. Now I'm going to just move that image up. It is the same image, and we're going to look at now what is the precession of the planet. Okay, the precession of the planet that we're taught is a continuous thing in our university courses. Okay, we're now looking at the layout of the precession of the planet. The precession of our planet is taught that is a continuous thing, 26,000 years or whatever it is. That's actually quite incorrect. The cause of our tilt of our planet was this comet sequence hitting it. And the comets are gone, long gone. The effect that they put on our planet will wear off, and that's exactly what is happening here. The precession of our planet, and this part of this display is showing that when we get back to a straight axis, which is this, from our 24 degrees, which is where we are, this tells us how long we're going to be at each degree and where the planet will be in respect, the causeway being representative, as it was in the Serapeum, of what was the perfect alignment with the Sun. Okay, so where we bounce up and down, we'll see we have 1,000 years here and 1,000 years here, 1,000 years there, so on and so on, where we're seeing how long we're actually up and below here. That is how this works. I've made the last 10 degrees here. This is not 10 degrees caused by the initial tilt or anything of such nature. At 10 degrees there is purely and simply because when we get down to this end here, our planet operates a little bit differently. The golden number is built into this pyramid for a reason. All of the parameters in respect to radius and circumference of Earth are built into these pyramids because it is in actual fact exactly that, a representative of Earth. That's why we're seeing the pyramid displayed how the Earth behaved in the placement of the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber and Queen's Chamber. They are all there to show you how the mass of the planet behaved. Here is a predictive event. This is why I'm telling you, I don't think that if our current leaders think they're going to keep the use of the pyramid silent for any longer, well, I know it, and I didn't go looking for it, so I have a feeling everybody's going to know what I'm telling you now. I don't think that's an optional thing. That's the same as the image and 9 from 9. That is not an option. If you don't follow the rules, there's going to be some stuff go down. The reason I made this 10 degrees here is just to show you, and I have put videos up and I will do it in my book a lot more accurately, but what happens is this last 10 degrees is actually comes over here and it becomes much more accurate in the way it portrays how long we're at each end here and each end here. The one thing I wanted to note is I did just tell you in the Serapeum that the blank or empty halls or empty alcoves are in actual fact depictions of comet impacts, and I pointed to one that I said was at about end view. That is this one here. So if I went back to that Serapeum view, which I will do now, and that Serapeum view is that box there. That's a predictive event telling us that in the next visit of Nibiru, I'll go back to that other image now. And we're back at that other image now, and that's that event there. That's actually a big comet going to hit our planet in the next pass of Nibiru. These paths here and these indicators on this wall, on this timeline, there and there, I will show you now that they are depicting the next periods of time in the next 11,000 years when Nibiru, it is real and it is plotted here and shown in this part of the sequence on here and all this here. That's why I said don't bother with that. I'll explain that to you in a minute. That Nibiru is a real thing. I would explain to you more as we go along. But however, what we're seeing here, like I said, don't be too concerned with this. You'll find between here and here that what we're doing is creating a lot more complicated process here to show you how it goes. And that is because that the Fibonacci curve, or that's diagram, we all know the ratio is how the planet will in actual fact react in moving back to a zero axis. I will move on to the next part now. Now I've just changed the lines on there so you can be a little bit more clear as to what's happening. These periods of time here, so in other words this area here, in this blue area here, and this area here, are in actual fact indicating to us in the next 11,000 years when Nibiru is back in here again. And you notice that this expected south impact is a rather large comet. I also want you to note that once we actually get hit by this comet here, we are not at any point down in this sector, okay, at any point until also planned right there is a northern impact on the second pass, and it's not until that actually happens that we see our planet get back down below the causeway here. So this is back down below what was the plane of, you know, equatorial plane of the sun. So in other words, if we're in perfect alignment with the sun, we would be sitting on this. And what you're seeing here is between this here and that impact there, we don't actually go anywhere down here. We're nowhere near it. And this is quite a period of time. We would think 3,000 to 4,000, maybe 5,000 years of time here after this impact. We are actually certainly quite above here. We are not here anymore. Just exactly what this does, I don't know. I'm not a planetary scientist, but I'm hedging my bets. Whatever it does is not good. And it would be a major impact if in natural fact it's actually not allowing the planet to come back down below here. At any point it's going to drive the mass, the body of the planet way up until such time as it gets hit again. In fact, it doesn't actually come down to way down here. So even if this one does hit us, it seems to take some time before our planet gets way back down here. It's not an actual fact until it's recorded here. It's like only, you know, 11,000 years. It's 1,000 years where it's sitting here. Because everything from that point forward is well and truly above it. As you can see, there's no planetary indication here. Whereas when we go down here, you'll see this is very regular. Okay, you're getting some on this side and some on this side. Like I said, we get 10 degrees. I just wanted to show you that's where Nibiru is plotted as being in here. Don't worry about the green lines. Like I said, I had a little bit of play here and there sometimes to try and work things out. I don't take the green lines up. Don't look at them. They're nothing to do with anything. It was just me practicing, working things out. Over here, and this part we will now go into, because it's using the the lower pyramid here, and we will display exactly what this part of the complex does. I've zoomed right into these boxes here. We're going to discuss these here, these ones here and these ones here. Before I discuss them, I'll zoom out and zoom back in so you can see where they are, okay? And you'll note where they are on the complex is on this side here, okay? So you know where it is. Now we'll discuss them, okay? What you are seeing here is an outlay of the comet. So in other words, as displayed, and I have in other videos, if you went back and looked at quite a few of them, will indicate to you that we had one comet, we then had two comets, we then had three comets. These comets are being divided. If you go back and look at the end of the Carry On video, it will depict to you a king and queen, queen of the world, who would not bloody listen, nor would she change her ways, and the putrid behaviour has obviously manifested itself in our society again. That's where we're at now. We are here, that's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. I wouldn't know any of this otherwise. I know this because they want me to know this. We're now looking at the comet. This is the first initial big comet. This little one here off it is indicating the one that was cut off the one that went to Western Australia. These are the two comets that caused and indicated by, in great length, this. Why the whole complex is here is because of this box and this box. Do not make any mistake about that. This is a southern one that creates the problem for our planet and tips it off its axis, and this is the one that stops it going any further because it might have kept spinning around in a circle for a long time and going the wrong way. So the stopping of the tilt of the globe was definitely essential. What I want to draw your attention to is this side here, right? Because this is recording how many impacts we actually had. We had the northern impact and the southern impact of America, or when I say northern, central and southern impact. That's 2. We have 4 impacts recorded, and it always is recorded as 4 at microscopic level on this rock. I will show you again now, albeit you may ponder and say, how can you get Roman numerals written on that rock if it's 12,000 years old? Like I said, I will answer some questions and answer them correctly, but I will generate 1 or 2 in the process. These boxes here are exactly that. They are reflective of the amount of comet impacts we got. There were 2, then there was 4 in Australia, which is 6, and the one in the Mediterranean is always recorded as 1 impact, which is why we've got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is our comet impacts. It is on this side of the complex, this side of the wall, this side of the eastern Mastaba fields, because it is doing something different. I will now widen the view, move it central, and show you what we're doing. I don't want to move too far away here because you won't be able to see it. Okay, I'm going to just hold it there for a minute. I've drawn a line here between A and B. It goes down like that. And what we're seeing is the tracking of Nibiru through our solar system using the pyramid at the bottom here to do it. This pyramid here. You see why I'm trying to keep it like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'll go back into this part so you can see it more clearly here. Okay. Because what you're actually seeing is the tracking of Nibiru here with a straight axis. That's exactly what you're seeing here. And then you're seeing bang. And this is the tracking of Nibiru leaving our solar system as our axis was changing, right? So that's what you're actually seeing there. Okay, that's one cycle of Nibiru, and the one that actually caused the problem, and the one that tilted the globe. Here we're seeing a second pass of Nibiru into our solar system. There, and back out again. And that's been recorded twice. And as you can see, we're looking off in a south direction, but what we're seeing here is this is happening. The same as we see in the other fields of eastern and western Mastaba fields. If I went up here, it's the same thing. We're losing the point of the pyramid here, and as we're moving out, we're going like this. This is how you're getting the sunrise and sunset being recorded. This is doing the same thing here, both twice. That is first, this is the cycle that causes the issue. This is the one after. There is 2 more here and here. Needless to say, if I zoom back in, before I move away from Nibiru, I want to zoom into here. I want to show you something here as well. Because I've always said to you that this 3 is important, in both the pyramids, in the warnings. I think there's 3 here in the path of Nibiru. I want you to note the length of time that we are seeing between here and here, the length of time between here and here, the length of time that exists between here and here, which we're actually now here. And you can't even see this thing at the moment. Okay? Maybe because you're looking in the wrong place, you're looking for this thing to come around and cycle around the sun. Well, it does not do that. If Nibiru, which it is, being tracked by this part of this portion here, and looking in this direction, what happened here was your perception, if you in actual fact have a perception at Nibiru here, look where it's plotted, look how it's plotted. It's looking south. We are looking south. North is this way. We are looking south to look at it. So how do you look at south at Nibiru? It's real, it's been recorded twice. It tells us it's the deliverer of the comet because it's right underneath where the comets are displayed. How many we had, how many comets, impact sites we had. This is depicting Nibiru, but it's looking south. How possibly can you look south? How possibly can you plot that? You can't plot it in the middle of the day, can you? What are you going to see in the middle of the day? Nothing. You're going to see clear blue sky. Your plot is a nighttime plot, that's why. This is taken night, it's plotted at night, and that's because you can see it at night. But you're seeing the full cycle of Nibiru. You're seeing in and out, in and out. How can it be recorded? In and out looking south, because it doesn't revolve around the sun. Would assume to me, and I put a video up about the true solar system and how it works, albeit I put Saturn and Jupiter around the wrong way. I like to keep you boys laughing. This is what we're seeing. We are tracking Nibiru. Nibiru, we are looking south at night time because that is when we can see it. It does a full cycle around one of our outer planets. I would assume that in any moment that it was cast from the inner solar system. I would suggest probably Jupiter. Jupiter is a gaseous planet. It may not have been gaseous until that other sun went past it, and Jupiter extracted the gases from the sun in its attempt to go past Jupiter. Okay, so that might be why Jupiter is a gaseous planet. Maybe it sucked off a fair bit of the bloody gas that would have been on the star when it got cast past Jupiter, or whatever it was. We've obviously had a binary star system with two stars rotating around each other at one point or another in the history of our solar system. The hurling of one star, for whatever reason, out into our outer solar system has ended in the star itself being captured by Jupiter. Why I wanted to show you and talk to you about this, the length of time here, the length of time there, and obviously the length of time from there to the past one, which is this one. You know, I would think that by looking at this, we are looking at Nibiru itself having a very, very odd, I mean it's odd in itself that the visual length of this here is exactly the same, right? So the distance here is the same. The distance here is very short. The distance here is very long. What I'm saying is that we may be having Nibiru coming through on two passes that are very, very regular in length of time, but then the second or third pass, the third pass is much, much longer. So maybe we have Nibiru doing quite a few different things than we expect, in that it comes in and does two very, very normal transitions like this, but between each second, or first and second, the third has got a very much longer gap between it. Okay, so I'm thinking that that's actually what we're seeing here, that the Nibiru might be on a very, very an elliptical orbit around Jupiter, but I would expect this is indicating to me a very irregular path. You know, like it's a very, this part of it's irregular and that part's regular, but the actual gap in between these is not regular. So you can say that some periods of time we may wait quite some time. It might be 2,000 to 3,000 years before we can even see it, let alone come into our atmosphere. Well, not atmosphere, I should say solar system. Well, it's in our solar system. It's never left. It just occasionally goes one hell of a long way away from it, but in a certainly southerly direction, and certainly rotating around Jupiter. That would be my guess. I have tried, and I have seen this, and as difficult as it is to get microscopic vision of the same thing, that's exactly what you're seeing here. It's really difficult for me to get that microscopic version to the point I can put it up on the screen and you could say, oh yeah, I can see that too, You know, I can see Nibiru and another planet going up and around Jupiter, while I can see Saturn over there. I can see it. It's really hard to see, and it's even harder to get an image good enough to give you on the TV here, or however I reproduce it. That's why I've got a new microscope on order, because I actually need to have a little bit more control. I've got, you know, I'm holding a rock and I'm holding, you know, I've only got so many hands. And it's just not, I'm just not getting as good as I know I can get. You've seen some images I put up very clearly. I'm just going to zoom in very quickly to a portion here near the Sphinx on the causeway, because what you're actually seeing here is exactly what the scenario was. I'm now zoomed into an area here. I'll move that down just a tad, okay, just so you can see it. It's not 100% clear here because I've got it blowing up so much. But what I wanted you to see was the three lines here, because that's what in actual fact was happening. This is represented by the walls at Sacsayhuaman in Peru. They say there were 3 comets there. You will also look at this image, which is Göbekli Tepe. You will notice the outside walls represent exactly the same as what we see at the walls in Sacsayhuaman. They are looking at 3 items on the outside walls and 2 or 1 on the inside walls. The inside pillars and posts at Göbekli Tepe are pointing and recording the entrance of Nibiru into our solar system. That's exactly what the Göbekli Tepe circles are doing. The front one on the image you see, you can see 3 lines, and that is exactly why, because you are seeing a relay or portrayal of 3 comets on the way to our planet. You'll notice that this one hits here, which is representative yet again of the one that left in Western Australia. We then have 2 more travel on. After the incursion and the slope of the planet, we now got 4. And that is where it represents 4 more comets on their way to remove the Australian continent attachment to Asia any longer. That is exactly what you're seeing here as well. I'm not going to go in, like I said, I haven't gone into great depth here. I'm trying to do a video here and give you an explanation of what the Pyramid Complex is, what it does. You can see that, albeit I haven't gone into real great detail, certainly the entire complex is doing exactly as I say. I'm not incorrect. These are monitoring the east and western Mastaba fields, a rising sun, setting sun using this side of the pyramid. The entire complex is over 11,000 years old, and with predictive events like comets landing in, at the time this was built, we are looking at something here that has been predictive 12,000 years at least in advance of a comet that's going to hit in the southern hemisphere. I don't think man has ever had that ability, ever. Here we have another predictive event, even further again. We can go here and say, oh well, we've already gone to 12,000 years. We're now looking at probably 17,000 years in advance, a prediction of a comet impact in the northern hemisphere. We are looking at our planetary mass here and knowledge of where it's going to be. Thousands of years in advance. And it won't be wrong. This will be absolutely correct. This complex and this part of this complex here, tracking Nibiru. That is correct. 100% correct. All of it will be correct. We must understand our inability to understand how this is built and who built it and how. Well, it'll never be answered because we didn't build it. We don't have this ability. The people that know what is happening here have the ability to do anything they want, almost. God willing. I say God willing because they're not gods. They left their rocks at our feet in multiple different styles of method of IT. I can get some rocks at really high quality. Other stuff's not quite so high quality. It isn't an indication of their inability. It's an indication purely and simply to let us know they are nothing more than us. That's why I showed you that motif. If you go back and have a look at this one here, I'll insert it for you now. The reason why we see them depict themselves at the same height as us is because they don't depict themselves as any more better one way or the other. I think the pyramidal structure that we were supposed to be running our planet on was purely and simply a social structure. And only ever meant to be a social structure because it's human nature. That has to be how your structure runs, because how else can you possibly expect the expectation that every man or woman on the planet is going to be 100 out of 100 and A grade student is absolutely pathetically stupid. It's impossible. Therefore, you have to have a social structure. But a social structure of a pyramidal structure does not mean that those further up the top of the pyramid in a social structure are any different than the ones down the bottom. They are no less important. No less important, and I think that's exactly what this motif that we're looking at here does. I did explain it in very much more detail in the carry on video, so go back and have a look at the end of that video and understand what this means, what you're looking at here. I just want to put this in for those people of faith. We are just about toward the end of the video, but those of you who would find that maybe what I've told you here is somewhat upsetting. I'm not a person of faith in respect to going to church or doing such things. I've never doubted from day one, to be quite frank. There was something more to life than just walking around on this planet. And even as a young child, I've always had the feeling there was far more than just walking around here for however many years we get to do so. I want to show you a couple of things. If what we're seeing here and here, both during the pass of Nibiru in this instance and this instance, and copying what we would see as a southern hemisphere impact here and a northern hemisphere impact here. I want you to understand that the people that are building this and telling us this can see into the future. Okay, now I did make a statement in one of my other videos that I saw that as a really wondrous thing, that these people could see into the future and thought enough to come back and save humanity, that they came back in time to not only do this but to build this, to let us know what sort of environment our planet was, rotating in as such. It goes through quite a lot of turmoil every 4,000 years or however long it is that Nibiru comes back into our system, which I said does depict to me to be that it has two short passes and one long one, or one where it goes even further away. Listen, the reason why I wanted to bring your attention both to these 2 points here, they are many thousands of years in advance, probably at the period of time of building this, which is 12,000 years ago when a whole lot of this was built. So I don't know whether you Egypt historians, I don't know where you got your facts from, but I think you're all wrong, and this cannot exist here. It actually tracks from 10 to 24 degrees, so this pyramid has to be here. This one here, you could say, oh no, that was built when we said it was, but no, it actually contains information in that relative, exactly relative to the tilt of the planet as displayed here, so I would expect that there. The other one down the bottom is where we're tracking Nibiru from, so in actual fact we've got every structure here being built 12,000 years ago or thereabouts. Look, the really important part I want to do was this. It wasn't just the fact that they came back to save us. Okay, so if you are a person of faith and you find it very confronting, all this, it's not the case. These people are really advanced, and they can modify our planet and build mountains and build rivers and do all these sorts of things. They're not gods. That's why they put themselves on that other picture that I showed you earlier. at the same size as us. They do not consider themselves better. They are just more advanced. And they will educate us when they see fit, I think. We will eventually, we may be in the last leg of that now. We might be in a leg here, from this period of time here, to this period of time here is in excess of 1,000 years before Nibiru is back again and we see it. We could be in a situation here where that is exactly where we are. We could be in the 1,000 years now, forward of this time, where we actually are advanced beyond where we are. In other words, we step from this planet in this 1,000 years. That could be exactly what we're going to do now. But I'll tell you what we're doing, we will not be stepping forward in this 1,000 years with one world government, a new world order, run by people that protect the most despicable of human behaviour on the planet. That just will not happen. However, the predictive events we see here by these people and the fact they've come back to save us is not just the only thing that is really, really good here. And like I said, if you're a person of faith, stop and ponder, if you will, that. They haven't just come back. I mean, if we were just chunks of meat walking around on a couple of legs like any other animal on the planet, why would they come back? So if we were just beings where there was no part of our physical self worth a thing, why would they come back? They just wouldn't. If we were just like an animal and nothing more, nothing less, they wouldn't even bother coming back at all. They came back because we are far more than that. We are far more than the bodily being that we cast ourselves and walk around in. This is just a cart box, that's all it is. And for you people that think there are no afterlife or nothing beyond Earth, I feel sorry for you. And like I said, those people with faith, this whole complex has been built by people from an advanced society, way, way, way more advanced than us. Way. And they've travelled back in time to protect us and make sure we were going to move onwards. They don't do this if we are just chunks of meat walking around. So in their behaviour and in their manufacture of such things on our planet, they've told us without any shadow of doubt, a being that can travel forward and back in time has probably full access to many, many, many more parts of the universe that we do not see, still knows there is more to life than just walking around. That's what's actually the amazing thing. In their behaviour, you know without doubt they've come back and saved us, not because we're just beings or humans, it's because we're spiritual beings. That's why. They wouldn't bother otherwise. And that is why we have people on our planet trying to turn your spirit away from where it should be going and heading down a path of no return. That does finish this video now in my trusty pointer stick, part of my damaged tent. Listen, I'm going to go and do what I'm going to go and do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and that last bit is really, really, really good news. Like I said, they didn't just come back to save humanity. They wouldn't come back and save humanity itself. It was nothing other than a bunch of animals walking around on our legs, because that's not what we are. We are a very, very spiritual being, and unfortunately with the current leaders we have, spirituality of humanity is being shielded just as much as the real message in the Carry On logs. There is absolutely nothing, I would believe, here that I've shown you in Nibiru's path and portrayal on the very same construction. You know, with Nibiru there as well, I would expect they know all that as well. So as far as this is concerned, as much as you and I might be sitting here now thinking what a marvellous discovery, I can assure you, I'm absolutely certain that nothing I've told you about this is new to some people on this planet. Just for me, and probably maybe you now. Okay, thanks very much for your time. Have a nice day. This is Brian Whitten and ET Art saying goodbye. See ya.